Good morning, genealogy friends. Today we are talking about primary versus secondary sources. This is a more, I don't want to say it's a simple topic or a basic topic. It's maybe, it's fundamental. This is a foundational thing for people who are understanding genealogy. So you might be tuning in and thinking, I already know the difference between primary versus secondary. And that's fine. Consider this a refresher, and I'm going to bring up a couple things that you might not always think about, but I wanted to make sure I got this information out there. I'm also going to try to speak more loudly and more clearly. I have been getting feedback that you guys are having a hard time understanding me, which I 100% believe. So I'm going to work on that. And if you still continue to have a hard time, please let me know. That is definitely something that I'm trying to be aware of. Anyway, I hope you guys are having a good Monday. I am very, very tired today, and we had to run over to the school this morning, so I'm in my snow gear because it's snowy and cold outside and very snoozy. I was up very late last night trying to get the Polish pages done. Let me flip this around. Good morning. I was up late last night trying to get the Polish pages done, and I didn't quite get there. I was up so late, you guys, so late. But putting out all of the pages in all the different colors just takes a really long time. So the good news is that I'm only maybe an hour or two away from having that be finished, but they won't be in the shop. Maybe the end of this week. I don't know how many people, if anybody, how many of you are waiting for the Polish pages. Sorry, I thought I was going to sneeze. But yeah, it's been a learning experience. I don't want to disappoint anybody, but I will not be tackling another language in the near future because I really underestimated how much time that was going to take. So anyway, good morning, everybody. Sorry, it's so funny. I always think I have like cute shirts and makeup and stuff like that, and I just talk to you guys and then I get ready for the day, and I really need to reverse that because I should be able to get my act together by this time of day. I just can't, not yet. It's the pandemic. My getting ready for the day has slid later and later. It's going to be 4:00 in the afternoon pretty soon before I'm putting myself together. Okay, let's talk about primary and secondary sources. So when we're talking about sources, we're talking about pieces of evidence that you use for your genealogy research, for your notebooks, for your notes, for putting things together to prove, when somebody was born or who they were married to, things like that. The reason that, to put it very simply, the reason that you want to care about this is because you don't want to waste your time with bad, incorrect research if you don't have to. We all have rabbit holes that we go down and then you realize that's the wrong person or it's the wrong record, or you chased a lead that was actually just a smudge on a census record. That is an inevitable part of genealogy if you go into it deep enough. But it's more efficient and more effective to do the best research that you can and to double and triple check yourself every step of the way so that you aren't putting evidence together to make a story that isn't true. Because the whole point of genealogy, of family history, is to find the truth, to put together these facts and these stories that reflect things about your ancestors that aren't you just piecing things together because it's convenient or fast or exciting. It's just, you don't want to build a family tree that isn't true. That is the equivalent of cheating at solitaire. Yes, you've then built something, but what are you doing? What are you doing? So when you're looking at sources, when you're looking at evidence, you've got a record. You have to ask yourself, is this a primary or a secondary source? You want to get into the habit of having that be the first thing that you think about, and you want it to be automatic. And it's not a hard concept, but it's really important, and you don't want to just gloss over it. So primary sources, they they're sources that pull information from somebody who is actually an eyewitness to the event. So a good example is a birth record. If you have a birth record and the person who is providing the information is the father, or maybe it's the doctor who was there, it's, somebody who was in the room when this person entered the world, that is an eyewitness to that account. That information is going to be really solid because that information probably is being recorded not too long after that thing happened. That person was there, was aware of everything. And so that is considered a primary source. That record was made by a primary source. It's timely. The person saw what was going on. The person is in the best position, or one of the best positions, to be somebody who can reliably recount that information. If somebody reports their own birth later so that they can get a delayed birth record, that is not a primary source. Yes, the baby was present at his or her own birth. The baby was not good at record keeping when it was born. The baby was bad at record keeping. The baby didn't know what record keeping was. The baby has to rely on what everybody else tells him or her. And so you get people who don't necessarily know exactly what month or day or year that they were born, or they don't know where they were born because they were a baby. And if they moved around a lot and the person came from a family of 11 children, things can get jumbled. So then if you have a delayed birth record for somebody who is providing information about their own birth, even though they were there, that's a secondary source. This is an important distinction because you're talking about the quality of the information. That secondary source probably isn't lying on purpose. They're giving you the best information that they have, but they did not have a timely eyewitness account to the event. They are relying on hearsay. And when you have a source that's relying on hearsay, it's always secondary. Other really good, usually primary accounts, marriage records are usually primary. Usually you've got people getting married and the record gets filled out almost immediately, and you've got witnesses who said, yes, I watched these people get married. That is different than somebody, if somebody's writing an obituary and they believe that their parents were married a certain year, they weren't there. Their parents have told them that. They have every reason to believe that that's true, and so they're providing the best information. But an obituary is a secondary source for a marriage record, or for marriage information. It's not the primary source. Other things, some of them get a little like, okay, a family Bible. Well, if the family Bible is somebody writing in the family Bible 4 seconds after the baby pops out, or somebody writing in the family Bible and they're trying to remember all of the people that were born and married, etc., in the last 5 years, then you're looking at other weird hints like, okay, is all of the writing for a certain chunk, is somebody writing in the same pen and they seem to be just listing things out, in which case it really does seem like somebody's just trying to pull information from their recollection. You kind of have to use your best judgment. The thing about primary and secondary sources is that if you're publishing your genealogy or sharing it, you might get people who really are critical of whether or not you have a lot of secondary sources instead of having good primary sources. Most of the time, the difference between primary and secondary is really going to be more important to you and your work and making sure that you're doing the best work you can. You always want to try for the primary source. Even if you feel like you have 5 secondary sources and they all back each other up and it seems really solid, if you can, you want that primary source, just because primary sources are so much closer to being solid. Something else to remember, you can have one record that has both primary and secondary information on it. So if you have a death record that a spouse is filling out, I'm having total deja vu, like I've already taught this. Well, I guess I'll find out in a minute. If you have a death record and the spouse is filling out information about the death of her husband, her information about his death is going to be primary. She's probably right there. She's probably in the best position to provide that information. Her information about his birth is not primary, it's secondary. It's on the same record, but she's getting information about his birth from what he told her during his life, or from other people. Or, I mean, the chances that this woman was also present at his birth, very unlikely. And even then, she's probably not, I mean, she's apparently not providing that in a timely manner because this person got old enough and married and then died. So you've got a record that has primary and secondary information. You can have that record in different places. If that's the only record that you've got that provides a birth year, then that's really exciting that you found one, but you have a secondary source for his birth. You don't have a primary source, and you want to keep looking to see if you can find something that's a better record. So secondary source is always better than nothing, but they're not the goal. But for death information, a death record is a great primary source. The other thing that I want to remind you is that you can have secondary sources that are complete hearsay, that the information hasn't been recorded until it's passed through the mouths and brains of 5 different people, and that information can be rock solid. People remember stuff correctly all the time. And you can have a primary source where somebody was just there and they might lie on that record because they want to cover something up, because they want to make something seem more exciting, or because they misspeak. If you have somebody like the grieving widow we were just talking about, she might be really upset. So she might be, somebody asks her, what day did your husband die? And she's thinking to herself, well, this is the day he got sick, and that's the date she comes up with, when really he didn't die for 4 more days. I mean, and not because she intentionally misled them, but now you've got what is supposed to be a primary source, and she's made a mistake on it. And then you also have clerical errors. I mean, clerical errors are the bane of genealogy. Like I said, smudges, misprints, somebody puts a 7 instead of a 6, and all of a sudden you're, looking for somebody in a completely wrong state for the next 2 years of your life. So, when you're looking at records, you want to take all records with a grain of salt, even the primary ones. This is why, even if you've got a good primary, you want to back it up with secondary records or other primary records. And this is, again, also why, even if you know when somebody was born, you don't necessarily want to stop looking for their information, because you want as many records that you can find for people to cover their entire lives. Basically, this is why genealogy is never finished. You want to have all of the records you can about all of the people that you can, because that's how you get the complete story. So anyway, like I said, kind of a basic topic for today. And again, I had major deja vu in the middle there, honestly wondering if I'm so tired that I've completely forgotten that I've already taught this. But I feel like I've talked about primary and secondary sources a lot in blog posts and other video things that don't have to do with this, and on Instagram. So maybe that's what I'm thinking of. If not, consider that a refresher, because it is a Monday, you guys. It is a Monday here in my house. And it's so snowy and beautiful outside, and I love it, but I think it's fogging up my brain and making it feel too cozy to think. So, all right, I don't teach on Tuesdays. I won't be on tomorrow. Tuesday is my 24 hours of mom business day. Yeah, but I'll be back on Wednesday, and I'll see you then. Thanks for being here.